Here are the headlines for today's Radio 1 News update. Interior Minister urges footpaths for pedestrians. Obama says new US law a mistake and dangerous precedent. Trump loses $1 billion. Nearly. This is the Radio 1 News update. I'm Aaron Leviton. Interior Minister Sa Keng this week suggested that footpaths in Phnom Penh should be for foot traffic. The revolutionary concept was revealed in a missive to Phnom Penh City Hall, in which he suggested to Phnom Penh Governor Pasachirtvong that the practice of sidewalk vending is a congestion-causing eyesore. For decades, Phnom Penh's footpaths have been used as car parks, restaurants, bars and garages. The minister's comments drew a variety of responses. The affiliated Network for Social Accountability said the government should begin by enforcing traffic and parking laws and fine those who park their cars on the sidewalk first. City Hall spokesman Mian Chaniadar said the municipality was stuck between a rock and a hard place. Quote, "If we prohibit people from using the road for personal business, you will say we violate their human rights. If we delay it, you will say our authorities have no ability," he told the Phnom Penh Post.
Coming up next, international news.
The US Congress this week voted overwhelmingly for a new law and in the process voided President Barack Obama's veto of the bill. The Justice Against Sponsors of Terrorism bill allows the families of victims of the September 11, 2001 terrorist attacks to sue members of the Saudi Arabian royal family in US courts. The bill specifically allows for the civil prosecution of members of the Saudi government suspected of involvement in Al-Qaeda's attack on the World Trade Center. In practice, that means Saudi royals can be sued, as most members of the government come from the royal family. President Obama described the decision to override his veto, the first time it has happened to him, as a mistake and said the legislation set a dangerous precedent that opened the way for foreigners to sue the US government. The bill was passed 348 to 77 in the House of Representatives and 97 to 1 in the Senate. White House spokesman Josh Earnest told reporters the vote was, quote, "the single most embarrassing thing the United States Senate has done in decades." New York Senator Chuck Schumer said, quote, "The White House and the executive branch are far more interested in diplomatic considerations. We are more interested in the families and in justice." President Obama noted the closeness of the US election and said, quote, "If you're perceived as voting against 9/11 families right before an election, not surprisingly, that's a hard vote for people to take, but it would have been the right thing to do." Republican presidential nominee and perpetual human headline Donald Trump has spent the entire election campaign process telling everyone how rich he is, except for when he decided to tell everyone how well endowed he is. And in his original campaign filing claimed his fortune to be upwards of, and he apparently all capped this, $10 billion. Part of that fortune was worth $3.3 billion alone. Which part? His name. Donald Trump claims his brand, literally his last name, is worth $3.3 billion US. But not anymore, according to the Forbes business magazine. Its latest issue shaved a not inconsiderable $800 million off his not self-estimated value of $4.4 billion. Forbes put the former gambling magnate's value at $3.7 billion. Based on declining values in the New York property market, where Trump's headquarters and some of his highest profile properties are. Out of 28 buildings surveyed, 18 had declined in value. While 7 had increased in value, it wasn't enough to stop the Donald's fortune hemorrhaging close to $1 billion. Of course, that news didn't stop him boasting about his business successes during this week's debate. This has been the Radio 1 News Update. Stay tuned for more news on Radio 1 FM 103.7.